Hey, good morning. It is time for Coffee Talk with Guido. I've got my coffee. It's way too early on a Sunday morning, and I'm way too awake. Thanks for coming by. Hopefully you've got your coffee and we can talk about some tanks and what's going on this week. So I've got some channel news we'll go through. We'll go through the missions and specials as usual. Quite a few things for sale, actually. A couple of interesting things to look at there. We'll look at the missions. Bit of a mess, but we'll take a look at those. We'll go through some subjects du jour. Some streaming tilt by Guido, a new controller apparently being developed by Wargaming. That's interesting. We'll go over some of the preferential premium updates that they're doing, at least on Super Test. And I'll introduce you to a pretty dang funny video. It's a World of Warships video, which I don't play very much, but definitely recommend you check it out. I'll show you a little bit of it and give you the link, and you can check it out. It's pretty funny. And of course, every good briefing needs a conclusion, so we will have a conclusion. Let's get going. All right, as far as channel and stream news, I've been doing a little bit of streaming. Some of you guys have been by. Appreciate that. Gone tilt a couple times. We'll talk about that in just a minute when we get to it. Finished the grind of the 45 TP. So the 45 TB Hibachi or the Hibicha. I'm done with that. You can see I've got it here in the garage. I've already taken the crew out of it. It's got the football camo, which you can actually pick up right now from Wargaming. I don't really care too much about the visual effects on tanks. I'm happy to throw whatever camo gives me a percentage, but I know a lot of people like the specialized camos and things, so that's pretty cool. That's for the American football season, which has just started. For any of you non-American football fans out there, wherever you may be, that's just kicked off both for college and pro, but kind of cool. And there are some sales we'll look at later on that have to do with that. So good on the WGNA guys for paying attention to the cultural stuff that's going on in the States, and for the NA folks who care about that, that'll be cool. In addition to that, also for our hemisphere, the Brazilians are having a Independence Day thing for this weekend, so they're getting some flags. So kind of a cool thing that they're paying attention to all that good stuff. I have the 53 TP Marcus Calgowigo, good old Marco Polo here. You can see that it's a very strange looking tank. We'll go over this one just a little bit. Maybe later we'll talk a bit about this as well. I will have a review of the 45 TP coming out as well. I will have a new map room coming out later today for Airfield, so we'll be talking about Airfield on that. I just dropped the Pudel review. Since we're doing the polls anyway, we'll go ahead and drop that even though that's been out. And I will have an IS-2M review. That will also be coming out relatively soon. As far as the IS-2M goes, let's get a quick look at that right here, so as I can find it. The IS-2M is right there. So again, shout out to the WAD-NA guys giving me access to that tank so I can do a review. Fellas, the big picture here is that it is a IS essentially with a few minor tweaks. Not necessarily much better or much worse than any other regular IS. Although the buying it gives you a couple extra things which we'll go into when we get into the sales and whatnot. And that's pretty much the news of the channel. Just doing some grinding, doing some streaming. I hope to keep that up. I've been going pretty strong for a couple weeks now, maybe a week and a half. If you missed the stream, you can always go back and check out the recordings. I keep most of those on there, although I might have to delete last night's because I got pretty tilted on artillery. Let's dive into the missions and specials. All right, let's start here with the sales that they got going on. There's actually a lot of sales going on, folks. All kinds of sales going on. A couple of them are interesting, and I'll try to go through them as we go. But we've got the Berlin 5 out. This is the idea where you can buy a bunch of tanks in a big group, obviously, as a package. But what a lot of people do with this one in particular, because it comes with Brother in Arms crews, is they've already got the tanks, and they'll buy it for the gold in the Brother in Arms crew. Be careful about the golds. The package is on a discount, and it's maybe the discounted gold you get for the tank and some other stuff. It's very confusing, so just be prepared for that kind of thing. But we've got the Brother in Arms crew that come with that. So that's a decent deal as far as getting crews that are good. I am not sure if this is the Brother in Arms crew that's a 0 skill crew, or if it's just a crew that comes with Brother in Arms and your next skill is the 2nd skill. Somebody tell us down below. I've dug through this, and it's hard to track down. And the words the details and everything are never really explaining exactly what's going on. It's kind of all over the place, and that's unfortunate. But you got that going on for the Berlin 5. I think probably the most interesting one to me was coming down here and finding the IS2 Duo. So this is the IS2M. I do have a review of that coming out, and the IS2 Berlin, which has already been out, and you can buy those two together for 45 bucks, which is a pretty good discount. When I did the math on the two separate ones, it came out to 55-ish bucks. They show 51. Again, the whole pricing scheme, I don't understand it. I can't keep track of it. It changes at will. It just seems like random numbers with a random percentage. You know, I mean, it's all very strange, and it's really hard to nail these guys down. They're very shifty as far as this goes. Still, this is a good deal if you want two ISs. The long story short on the ISM is it's an IS. It's got a little bit better gun handling, a little more hit points, and a little less mobility, but it's such a small difference, you'll never notice it. It's an IS, although it's a premium IS, so that is helpful as far as premiums go. And it's cool. It is cool. And if you're a collector or you like the historical kind of tanks, hey, that's fine. I do go into this a bit in my review. I'm not bothered by the reskinning of tanks and selling different kinds. And if they want to tweak the numbers a little bit, as long as they don't make it super overpowered and obviously better than everything else, I'm okay with that. T-3485M, yeah. That one's a lot better than any other T-3485. So you're getting a decent deal. You get some missions and some other stuff with that. I'm not saying it's the best swinging deal ever, but I just wanted to point that one out in case you're in the market for that stuff. There's not a lot going on the gold side. You can see that you got the quick starter kit. Premium count we'll ignore. We go over to vehicles. It's the same thing, basically, as featured. This is something I've discussed multiple times. Featured, specials, what's the difference? At least vehicles is vehicles. I know people have told me, well, featured is the new specials, and specials are the specials. I'm like, just get rid of one of those tabs. It's ridiculous. It really is. There is, I'm trying to find it here. This is on vehicles, so let's get away from vehicles, and we'll go over to specials, because I did show you, I believe, the football camo. If I haven't, I'll show it to you in just a moment. But the football camo is right here. All right. So it's American football season, just started, right? We've got college. Pros are starting today. In America, that's a big deal. We love our American-style football. So that's cool. So Wargaming NA saw that coming up, and they tied in a little, celebration of that and some sales. Hey, that's great. That's what companies do. You've got the lineman bundle. He's a T-34. He's a big burly lineman. Okay, fantastic. You got the quarterback bundle. He's a very slow armored super person. That's the worst quarterback ever. What's going on here? Maybe somebody loves their pocket passer quarterback, the guy that wears the big flak vest and can barely move, like Dan Marino back in the day at the end of his career, couldn't even move, or maybe even Tom Brady at this point. Just not mobile, but has that kind of cannon arm for a gun right there, or a gun for a arm. What am I trying to say? He passes good? I don't know. I just thought that was funny that they picked the super Pershing as a quarterback. I don't know. You got the lineman stunt. It's kind of burly fellas down there. They're doing a stunt. You got the wide receiver. There was a wide receiver comeback which had more little guys. I don't know. It's in there somewhere. Okay, back to the camo. The camo is like a football field on your tank, which is it's cool. The idea that you get custom camos and that they target them at certain regions and they recognize different celebrations or sports or things that are going on. This weekend we have Brazil celebration for their Independence Day. That's awesome. You get Brazil flags. That's cool for the Brazilian players. That is a good thing. All that is cool. I'm not a huge fan of the customized camos. It's just not a thing. All I care about is I put a camo on and I get a percentage, to be quite honest. I lean towards the historical side, but I've actually unchecked that just so I can kind of see what people are running around in lately. So I've got over that whole thing. It's fine with me. Here's my only issue with this. $10? $10 US for a camo. That's insane. It really is, man. It's too much. If it was $2, I would even consider it. $1.50, $2. Those things would be flying off the shelf. If you reduce that price point to something reasonable, you'd sell some. I don't get $10. You're talking now. This is really interesting because one of the reasons I'm a CC is I'm one of the older folks who are putting out videos and things. So I try to talk to some of the older crowd, and they tend to have more disposable income. When I see something like that priced at $10, I feel like that's aimed at that demographic. And it may be that you got that guy with that disposable income. He's like, yeah, okay, I'll buy that $10 thing. But the game players run the gamut, and I don't know any kid, unless he's in a wealthy family or whatever, who's going to dump $10 on a camo. There's tanks less than $10, premium tanks less than $10, or right at $10. I don't get that. I know I'm going on about it, but 10 is outrageous. And I really think they're hurting their sales by going with 10. I absolutely think, look, this is an electronic good. When we buy it, we don't even own it. We're renting it until the game goes away or the company goes away or whatever. So why on earth is it $10? Why not sell 20 at $2 instead of 3 at $10? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's insane. I don't understand that. All right, that's enough of that. We will move on to the missions. Get your coffee. Guido's on a rant. All right, we're in the missions tab. We've gone to the events. There are no events. Why am I here? Because there's supposed to be a marathon coming up, and we have that much info about it. Help! Wargaming. What is going on with the marathon? All right, let's move over to missions, and at the top we have Tank Mastery and another Tank Mastery, which are always on 2 separate cards. I don't understand why. Object 277 is on track. Oh, I just hit something there, getting my coffee. Object 277. All right, other missions. Please, developers, can I go off on this every single week. Clearly nobody's listening to me. Can we get some kind of organization on these cards? We've got, all right, so the diplomas are on top, but now I've got the Polish Tank Mission 6 right in the middle of the diplomas. And then I've got Hunt the Sheriff sitting there, and then I've got another diploma, and then I've got an IS-2 family here. And it's so hard to look through and figure out what's going on, man. It's nuts. All right. The diploma things have been pretty good. The heavy one's not easy because it requires some bouncing. The block missions, please make those go away. They're so annoying. Blocking damage is not something that you do to win a game. It is something that's part of the game, but you don't go and into a game and say, I need to block damage to win. You go in and say, I need to do damage, take critical terrain, maybe cap or kill all the rest of the tanks. The blocking the damage happens along the way, and it's a useful thing to be able to know how to do, but it doesn't have anything to do, that's not true. It doesn't have anything directly to do with winning. It's obviously part of it. So the blocking damage missions, they got to go. They're terrible. Because that's a bit of a wall. Let's see that, play on words. It's a bit of a wall to completing your heavy tank stuff. You can see I've only done it twice, and I've been playing quite a bit. The good news there is when you complete number 4, heavy tank 401, you get 10,000 experience on the tank that you did that with. And when you're grinding a tank, like I was last night, I got 11,000 experience, 1,000 for that particular game, and another 10,000 bonus. That actually got me done with the grind. But even though I've played that tank for 3 or 4 days in a row, I've only managed that mission once. And I play a lot. I'm pretty decent. And it's been largely that blocking thing has blocked me from finishing the bloody mission. In addition to that, a lot of tanks, heavy tanks, don't really block very much. They just don't have the armor. Now you might say, well, Guido, too bad. Go find a tank that you can block the damage. Okay, I mean, you can go through all that mess, but it was a strange decision for me. The rest of them seem fairly reasonable. I haven't dug into them because I've just been playing my heavy and a little bit the medium until I finish the medium part of the line for the pulls. But those are the missions. You got the 301s. Speaking of Hunt the Sheriff, hopefully pretty soon, we've been told there will be sheriff accounts out there for us community contributors to drive around in, so we'll be distributing that 250 gold by dying. We'll be like the little video game guy when he dies and explodes and all the little gold comes out of him and everybody runs and grabs it. So that'll be interesting. That'll be fun to do. Hopefully that happens sooner or vice later, but that's what we've been told. And those are all the missions. Not really anything else to bring up. Well, the Brazilian flag is going on, so you can do that up to 6 times. So that's either 6 Brazilian flags if you like Brazilian flags, or it's 60,000 credits if you like selling the flags that you get. Which, let me show you how you do that, just in case. There may still be some people out there who do not know how to do that. You come over here, you go to exterior, you go to, I think, custom style, you go to emblems. It's very kind of confusing. And then you go to the flags, and I don't know, do I have a Brazilian flag? Yep, I do. All right, so there's the Brazilian flags. I have 3 in my garage. I go like that. I right click, I sell it. I can totalize it, totals all of them, or I can click what I want, and I click sell for 30,000, and I've made credits. For those of you that haven't done that and you've played for a while, you're going to have millions and millions of credits sitting down in this area that if you want to sell the flags, you're never going to use. Understand, however, and I don't get this really, there these things, that Sabaton that I have a bunch of, this grinning, whatever that is, pumpkin, the chieftain hat, meathead militia stuff. You can't sell all that stuff. I don't really understand why it would be that way, but there you go. If you like them, put them on your thing. This one cracks me. Meathead militia emblem. It's pretty funny. No offense, oh meathead. I want to sell them. I want to sell them. Oh, I wonder if I did not do that. Hold on. Let's check this out, because that's confused me a couple times. Let's go to custom style again. Let's go to emblems, and let's go back to the Brazilian flag. Did it act? Yes, it did sell them. Okay. The apply and exit thing, trying to get out of this, is confusing. The first time I did it, I thought it didn't actually sell them, and I had to go over here and say apply and exit in order to, no kidding, sell them, but it looks like it sold them. All right. Fantastic. Let us move on. All right, so I want to discuss a little bit, streaming tilt and the game experience in general, because I've had the high and low in the last week or so. I had a session where everything went right and I was doing very well. The game is streaky. You are going to have bad sections. You're going to have good sections. And I had a really good section of games a while back, a couple days ago, and I was streaming on it. It was all well and good. Last night, though, I went tilt in a big way. And there were a couple things that happened with that I think are germane to the larger game itself and where it's going right now, which is a bit concerning to me. So there were 3 things that really went on last night. The first one was me, so I'm always going to admit that I played poorly right off the bat. That I made some bad decisions that helped me lose a couple games I should have won. So played badly. Number 2 is artillery, and number 3 is the campiness and the passivity of the majority of the players, and just the teams now that are unbelievably bad. I don't run XVM, but I have taken to, on occasion, looking at the players afterwards, especially if I have an especially bad team and I see someone doing something especially dopey, I'll kind of check their stats, look at them, and I'm finding a lot of new players at higher tiers. Guys below 10,000, guys below 5,000, up at tier 8 or 9, 7, driving around just having no idea what to do. Now, they have to learn, so they have to play the game. My point isn't that they're new and bad, or that they shouldn't be there. I'm glad they're here, because I think they've inflated the numbers and kept us where we are, because we've lost a lot of the experienced players. The other thing, though, is going back to the artillery, is the changes in the maps with all the sniper spots they've added. The fact that 3 artillery is basically the norm right now in a lot of games, if not most of the games. It has begun to affect the gameplay yet again. For a long time after they changed it to the stun, it really knocked them down a bit as far as how they affected the game. But as of about now, in the recent past, and maybe I haven't noticed it till now, artillery is affecting the entire game and how it's played. Because nobody wants to get hammered by 3 artillery with stun. The accuracy of the artillery, because they're almost always going to at least stun you, stripping you of hit points, even though it's not the massive hits anymore. Now it's death by 1,000 cuts. Nobody wants to push. Nobody wants to go forward and fight in the fort areas. Nobody wants to push. If you get a team with 3 or 4 guys who will get aggressive and push forward, then you can push forward through 3 already on all their stun. But if you hesitate, or you get a passive team Most people are now hiding behind bushes and rocks and buildings simply because they do not want to get annihilated by artillery as they're attempting to play a tank game. And this is really, really bad for the game because it is becoming an absolute camp fest full of passives hiding behind things, largely because they don't want to get hit by artillery, to some extent because they don't know how to play and they don't want to get hit by invisible tanks. But if they weren't being obliterated by arty all the time, then they would probably be able to move around a little bit and figure out how to take out the TDs and the hidden tanks, because some maneuver, being clever, flanking, and things can work. The problem is you cannot do that with arty. There is no way to maneuver or outflank the arty because he will hit you every single place on the board. Turned into an arty rant to a large extent, but it's tied into the passivity and to where the meta of the game is going, and it's extremely frustrating. For somebody with my game style, trying to get out front, enjoy the game, do some maneuver, get in their face, break through, it's very, very frustrating. So the answer could be, well, Guido, you're going to have to change your game style. I don't want to, and that's my problem. So if that's what we're going to, an extremely campy sit around in bushes and hide behind rocks and buildings until somebody makes a mistake type of game, then that's not the game for me. So for now, I'm going to continue to play the way I play, even though it has definitely hurt my stats playing that way, because it is now all about sitting back and farming, using your teammates as shields. To some extent, I also blame the very good players who are teaching this style. Why do they teach it? Because it works. Hey, I'll admit it, it works. They're very good at it, sitting back in the back, farming, letting other people go forward to light things and letting the other team make mistakes and come to them. It absolutely works. And if you are going to be a very high win 8 kind of player, that is basically the game style you're going to adopt. Note I didn't say camp in the back behind a rock. They get forward enough that they can get shots, but they're never ever going to expose themselves and try to get forward and break through. They will destroy any breakthroughs that try to come and then slowly, methodically move through the team, using their own team as much as possible as meat shields and as spotters. I see how that works. They've got better stats. They're doing much better than me in a lot of cases based on that. But that is so boring to me. I mean, and if that's what the game is going to be, then I don't know if I'm going to stick around and continue to play it, if that's how it's going to develop. I will tell you that is where it is right now. We are solidly in the bush sniping, hide from artillery, camping, passive meta. That's where we are. It is so difficult to move forward and do anything without getting obliterated, largely because nobody wants to move because of arty, and to some extent TDs. But TDs, like I said, would be much less of a problem if we could actually move around the map without getting schwacked by artillery. All right, that is my yabba about my streaming tilt and the current game experience as far as it goes. Let's talk real quick about some preferential premiums, and then I'm going to show you a pretty funny video, or at least part. Actually, before we go on to the preferential premiums, I just want to show you that Wargaming is developing a game controller. This is kind of interesting. It looks like a piece of your keyboard. It's got the keys. You can see the WASD with little arrows right there. I don't know. That's interesting. I think there was actually a survey about it or something out there. It's a good question right here. It says, odd thing to focus on when the game is declining in players. I guess I kind of agree with that, but I don't know if this is maybe some kind of push for the Russian market. I mean, maybe their keyboards are bad, or I mean, I don't know. When you get big, when a company gets big, it starts to kind of go in all different directions, and this may have been an initiative that was started 2 years ago and has finally come to this point of fruition, as in they have a decent prototype out, and it was a great idea 2.5 years ago, but at this point now, maybe it's a little past its time, but they can't help but put it out because they've spent all the time and effort. I don't know. My wife bought me one of those. It was like a side controller and it had a bunch of keys on it and stuff once, and I used it a couple times, and at the end of the day I went, this adds nothing to what I'm trying to do. The keyboard works fine. I'm used to it. I've got the muscle memory on how to use the keyboard and move around it quickly. You can get that with these kind of things, but you have to go through the pain of figuring it out, and so it seems like it's fixing a problem that doesn't exist at the end of the day. You know, that's what they talk about when you invent something, find a problem and solve it. Well, you can also find a problem that doesn't exist and solve it. That's kind of what this seems like. Anyway, it's out there, so keep an eye out. If you like those side controller stuff, this may be your thing. All right, last but not least, let's go over some super test stuff, because this may be near and dear to the hearts of a lot of you who are going to be running your preferential premiums, and maybe want to run them a little more after they get buffed. So the super Pershing, we can see that it's getting some more hit points. I think the most interesting thing about the super Pershing and the Type 59 is they're getting more engine power, so they're going to be faster. That's impressive. Penetration is going to 202. Remember, it used to be 175 back in the day. I think it went to 192 or 198. Maybe it was 182. It was low, it got higher, now it's going to get even higher to 202 with the standard shell. It's getting some armor buffs. All these little areas getting better armor. There's the Type 59, look at that. Aim time, oh, I forgot about the aim time for the Type 59 is getting better. And its speed, so this was a huge nerf that the Type 59 got back in the day. It was very mobile, and it got hammered on its mobility. Now it's quite sluggish for a medium, but all of a sudden, look at this, 3.66 hit points a ton. Engine power, it's going up from 15 to 18, or maybe 14 and some change to 18. That's going to be interesting. That is going to make the Type 59 a bit of a beast, to be quite honest. And I thought it was getting a penetration buff, but it doesn't say. That I don't know. So its damage per minute's going up a little bit because its aiming time is going up. And it doesn't say here, but I think its reload time is going down a little bit. That's why its DPM is going up. Not very much, 50 hit points a minute. IS-6 is getting a penetration buff to its standard round of 182. I don't know. It's losing some aiming time. That's very good. It's getting some more ammo. I've never run out of ammo in my IS-6, to be quite honest, and I've played it a lot. And the dispersion's going down, so not quite as derpy. Still derpy at 0.44, let's be honest, but not quite as derpy. And it's getting some armor buffs. Look at this. The IS-6, folks, is getting some armor buffs. Isn't that interesting? The 112, kind of a similar thing to the IS-6, getting some buffs to like aiming time is going down. Man, 3 seconds. That is a big old derpy gun, isn't it? Penetration up to 182. Remember, though, the Chinese WZ carries a heat. I don't remember if the 112 has a heat round or an APCR round, but one of them has a heat round, which is pretty good for a gold round. It's got quite a bit of penetration. There it is. There's the WZ. That's the Chinese version. Maybe there's... These are, I think these little arrows are for when it's on the website for Wargaming. You can slide through all these slides. WZ is getting some bonuses as well in there. Hey, look at the Mutant's getting some bonuses, and the Mutant is getting some buffs to weak spots. Look at that. The roof was always a bit of a nightmare, but it's not getting touched otherwise. The T-34-3, yes, love this tank. Some definitely needed bonuses. 182. Dispersion's going down during movement. Interesting. Traverse, gun depression, fantastic. It's getting 6.5 is sort of getting comfortable. 5 is miserable. 6.5 is getting comfortable. Not great, but obviously better than 5. The heat shell speeds, it's going to speed up. It's a very derpy gun as far as slow and inaccurate. And it's also coming down from 0.46 to 0.44, so that works. Mr. KV5, we've talked about this one. Pens going up, definitely needed. I think it's 167. Something like that with the standard round. Woo. Going to 182, that'll be usable. It's faster in reverse. Okay. Aiming time is coming down a lot. Look at that. It's 0.6 seconds. That's noticeable. When it's 2.9 down to 2.3, that is absolutely noticeable. It's going to be a much more accurate gun. And that gun was fairly accurate anyway. Now, I understand it doesn't increase its accuracy, but it increases the speed at which it's more accurate, let's put it that way, which overall increases the accuracy because it's easier to get shots off as far as when you poke and come back and how long you have to aim and expose and everything else. So it is all wrapped up together right there. Good Lord, the radio operator is so happy he's put a helmet on. He's encased in 20 millimeters of body armor or something. And the dispersion's coming down. That's nice. And there's some armor buffs as well. The 8.8 is getting some buffs. Aiming time is faster. Holy cow, that thing aims like crazy anyway. They're getting a bunch more hit points. 200, that's significant. 212 on the pen, that's nice. So we're doing well there. Bonus on the standard pen. it will be able to traverse a little faster. It was very slow right and left. Now it's going to be better. That's going to be a bummer. It's going to be harder to circle this thing. And it's actually going to go in reverse. 4 miles an hour more is quite a bit, actually. And that's pretty much it. So this is an interesting situation, really, to me, because some of these are still pretty good, but they're going to get better. So we'll see if that does anything. Back in the day, the reason good players did so well in prefs is because they were prefs. What the preferential thing does for a good player is it limits the amount of RNG that is working against him in the game. I.e., he or she does not see 2 tiers above. And that is controlling for RNG, basically. Whereas if I play a regular tank, unless I'm a 9 or 10, playing 9 or 10, I have a large possibility of being in the bottom. And if I can control for one of the random factors in this game, which is the +or-2 matchmaker, by playing a preferential tank, and I'm a good player, I'm already ahead of the game. And that's why the preferential tanks were good. When they were also semi-competitive, and all you had to do is push 2 to really get yourself to a almost better tank in a lot of cases, then you could run 60% win rates and more. You can still do that, but because of power creep, you've been hurt a little bit in that respect. If you look at my stats, my preferential tanks are head and shoulders above most of my other tanks, minus some of the outliers. Like, I don't know if my FCM is higher just because there's no armor and it's a bit of a soft tank anyway. But you understand what I'm saying, especially my tier 8 prefs. I have a much better win rate in those because I can control for that matchmaker RNG. Anytime a good player can control for RNG and limit the effect on them, they will get more benefit out of that than a bad player will. So my point of that little talk is I'm very curious to see what this does to these tanks, how popular it makes them again, if at all. I feel like the bonuses and the buffs are small enough that it's not going to go overboard, and I do appreciate that, because that is what it looks like to me that they're trying to do, is just do a little bit of addition so they don't overshoot and have to nerf, because if they overshoot and make these things killers, they're gonna have a really hard time dialing that back because they are premium tanks. So they're in a bit of a tough spot here. I like what they're doing. I think this will be a good addition to these tanks, and I don't personally think they're going to be overpowered, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens with it. All right, I'm almost done with my coffee. Let's move on. All right, this is great. This is World of Warships. This is from a guy named Squire. Check out his YouTube channel. It's pretty cool. But I'm just going to give you a little taste of what this is. It's a bit of a parody on World of Warships. It's pretty funny, well worth watching. So it's called A Steaming Pile of Ship, and it's on Squire's YouTube channel. But let me just give you a little taste of this.
Battle starts. Wait, what the hell is this?
Is this your first battleship command, sir?
Yeah, just got to tier 3 and my first battleship looks like a hand-me-down from the Russian Navy. I mean, how old is it? Probably has sails.
Oh, it's quite old. When was the tank invented?
Oh, about 1915. Wait, are you telling me this ship was built in the Great War? It's from before the Great War.
If by before you mean in the Great British era of shipbuilding, then yes. Yes, it was.
Oh, well, as long as there aren't any, I don't know, icebergs floating around.
Anyway, you get the picture, man. It's 10 minutes. It's well worth watching. One of the reasons I actually brought it up is because a lot of the concepts they talk about in there, because you can see they're semi-aware that they're in a game, but they think they're in the war, that kind of thing, is they discuss a lot of the stuff that goes on in World of Tanks, like RNG, experience, all that kind of thing, people camping in the back, all that stuff. So just give it a watch. It's pretty it's pretty dang funny. All right, everybody, that's pretty much it. I'm down to the end of my coffee. I'll wrap this thing up, put this on the interwebs. Here it is. I've got the 53 TP, the tier 8 Marcus Kago, Markowitz, I don't know, Mark's tank. And I have been able to put my Christmas camo on it, which I'm really stoked about, because remember I told you last week the Christmas camo does not go on tier 7s for some reason. 6, 8, 9, and 10. Oh, I was going to mention the gun situation on this. I showed this on my stream. All right, this is great. Let's do this before I leave. And this will be in my report when I do the review, but this is fantastic. All right, so this is the gun that the Tier 7 uses, which is a 105 millimeter Bofors. It's got a 192 pin, 225 with gold, and 320 damage. Okay, cool. That's actually a reasonable stock gun for a Tier 8. I mean, there's a lot worse Tier 8 stock guns out there. And I'm thinking, oh, that's cool. Now, you do have to go through the tracks to get to the turret. Fair enough, that happens. So, tracks, new turret, and then I can put on a new gun. I can put a Tier 8 gun on my 53 TP Marcus Kigo, right? Let's check it out. How cool do you think this Tier 8 gun's going to be? Man, I'm excited. 22,500 experience after 16,500, after 17,500. I'm not going to do the math. It's a lot. I'm going to get a... What? I get a 122 millimeter D25T, which is the standard Russian 122 millimeter that's on the premiums. Think that one's going to get buffed when the preferentials get buffed? That's a straight downgrade. I just spent 22,000 experience to unlock a gun that's a straight downgrade over the 105 Bofors, minus the ability to overmatch with 122 millimeters, minus the 390 Alpha, which is, granted, 70 more. And I'm not going to bother to go into showing you this, but it's actually less DPM. It's less DPM, less pen, both on the normal round and the gold round, than the stock 105. It's a useless gun, but you got to grind through that bad boy to get yourself to the one that's worth having. This is the 14 TP all over again with the 37 millimeter. I don't know how this slipped through, but that is atrocious. That is atrocious. So I'm really looking forward to getting the tracks and the turret, and then uselessly grinding through a gun I can't use. I've got to grind 1, 2, 3 things before I can even get to something that's going to improve the tank. I guess the turret will probably improve a few things about it, but holy cow. All right, that is it for today, folks. There's the Christmas camo again. Christmas is coming. I guess first we have to get through Halloween. Thanks for dropping by. That's it for Coffee Talk. Keep on supporting the channel. Look for all those things. Like I said, I've got the review of the IS-2M coming out. I'm going to have the review of the 45 TP since I just finished that coming out. I've got a new map room, airfield coming out later today. I'm out. See you guys later.